Welcome back to the Cold Harbor Supply YouTube channel. My name is Steven, and today we're going to go over the entire lineup of Nocpix thermal devices for 2025, including tube style scopes, standalone thermal scopes, thermal monoculars, as well as thermal clip-ons. Let's get into it. So Nocpix makes a bunch of these thermal devices that are in front of me, and they can be broken down into major product families, as I said. Tube style scopes. So on my right here, it'll be the Bolt and the Ace. This is the Slim. This one's the Rico. We have the two Lumis, the Vista, which is a much larger, full-featured thermal, and then we have the Mate. So at a high level, how you can actually differentiate between these is, going back to this, Bolt is a mid to low-end version, Ace is their fully featured. Similarly, Slim is a smaller version of the Rico, and then the Lumi is a small version of the Vista. Mate, again, like I said, is off on its own. It's this thermal clip-on. Kind of getting into the model numbers, we'll put some of this information on the screen. But how you can differentiate what you're getting is via the model numbers. So anything that says S is going to be a 1280 core thermal. Anything that starts with an H is going to be a 640 core thermal. Anything that's an L is a 384 core thermal. Anything with a P, I believe, is a 192 core thermal. So that's the first digit. The second one is going to be the number. It's going to denote the size of the objective lens. So for example, if it's the S60, it'll have the 1280 core with a 60 mil objective lens. If it's the Rico RH50, it'll have a 50 mil lens and a 640 core. So that's at a quick glance how you can tell what you're getting, and why that's important is typically higher and higher resolution cores are going to be a bit more expensive because it's giving you more resolution to play around with in terms of digital zoom. And then finally, the objective lens is going to be the primary determining factor for your detection range. So as an example, 50 mil lenses will typically give you a detection range of about just a little over 2 kilometers. The bigger the objective lens you get, the longer the detection range that you'll generally have. And then finally, the last digit, which may or may not be present, is the R. R stands for rangefinder. So certain models, like as an example, the RH50R will have a built-in laser rangefinder. Ace S60R, again, built-in laser rangefinder. As an example, the L19, as you can see here between these two, this is the L19, so 19 mil lens, a lot smaller. This one's got a larger lens, but this one's the H35R, and this one's the L19. So as you can see, one has a laser rangefinder and the other one does not. So that's a very, very quick way for you to actually just, at a glance, figure out which model to really look at, is to just look at the family name of the device, then what core it has, what objective lens it has, and then finally, whether or not it has a laser rangefinder built in. One of the questions we get a lot is, what's the right core resolution to get? Because there's 192, 384, 640, 1280 cores. And generally what we say is, think about whether or not you're going to be needing to do a lot of digital zooming. So the more that you think you're going to be needing to do it at different distances, I would say would increase your need for something with a higher resolution core. Higher resolution cores will give you more pixels to work with. 99% of thermal devices, any zooming is done digitally, right? So if you have something like a 384 by 288 core, it's not going to give you a ton of pixels to work with when you're doing digital zoom. Typically, I would say, if you have a device that's got a 1x base mag and it's a 384 core device, I would say, if you don't want the image to look really muddy or fuzzy, a 2x is probably the limit I would go on a 384 core. Whereas on a 640 core, you actually have the freedom to go all the way to 4x and still have the image look great. And similarly, for the 1280 core, you're going to have much more freedom to be able to punch that image in or out, depending on what you need to do. As an example, if you know your typical engagement distance is going to be like 150 yards and out, I would say go with something that's like 3x base mag or even a 2.5x base mag, because you can actually get something that's, has a higher base mag but a lower core resolution. If you know that most of your targets are going to be at the 250 to 350 yard range, you don't have to splash to get something that has a 1280 core, because you don't necessarily need to stretch that digital zoom as much. Obviously, if the budget allows, everyone would be buying a 1280 core 60, 70, about 5 mil lens, but be realistic about what specific core resolution, base magnification, and objective lens size you need for the distances and the size of the target that you're looking to shoot. Okay, so let's do more of a deeper dive into the tube style scopes, and why you may want to look at the tube style scopes over something that's more of a dedicated, with an integrated mount thermal is The tube style scopes will have obviously different controls, but more importantly, it'll allow you to mount your own rings. And why that's important is, for example, if you have specific chassis that you need a certain scope height, the tube style scope is going to be the way that will allow you to either raise or lower the optic height. So as an example, something like this Ricoh RH50R here, you get the mount base with the scope itself, but the height is the height. There's no real easy way to change it. So the tube style scopes is a really great way for you to get a traditional scope silhouette while also giving you the ability to raise or lower or adjust to different heights according to your actual platform itself. Keep in mind also that some of these larger ones, like the S60R, will have larger end bells, so you might have to get a much taller base than what you currently own. One other thing I want to mention is that because every single person's platform is going to be different, these scopes actually don't ship with rings at all. But this type of platform gives you that freedom and flexibility to get the scope exactly where you want it. Okay, so let's go over the Ace first, and I'll just kind of go over the different models that are available. The Ace is actually available in 4 different models. It's available in the S60R, which is the highest end model in my hand here. Again, the 60mm lens gives you a little over 3 kilometers of detection range. It's also available in an H50R, H50, and an L35. So what that means is it's available in a 1280 core, 640 core, and also a 384 core. Same chassis. So essentially what you're going to be getting for this is a 2560 by 2560 AMOLED display on the back. Why that's important is despite the fact that your core might be limited to 1280 or 640 core, the 2560 will actually give you a nicer and more comfortable image, especially when you're doing digital zooming. On the topic of zooming, one thing I want to touch on that's kind of unique to this particular scope is the fact that it has a digital zoom on the actual screen itself, but it also has an optical zoom on the back. So essentially with this, you can dial this up digitally, but also use this to essentially zoom in to the back of the screen. Kind of a unique feature. And as well, one thing to quickly note here is that the Ace is the ones that have the built-in low profile laser rangefinder, as opposed to the Bolt, which actually has a bit more of a kind of like this periscope like attachment. The Bolt, kind of switching gears to the Bolt now, the Bolt is only available in the L35R variant and the P25R. So this one's only available with a 35mm lens 384 core or a 25mm lens 192 core. So again, very limited. I would consider this to be more of a entry to mid-level scope. And then this one's the Ace to be a much higher premium scope. The main mechanism for zooming is going to be the wheel at the very top. The Bolt itself only has the digital magnification. So you're going to have to think about what's more important to you, whether or not you want the LRF or do you want just the nicer chassis overall of the Ace. The actual end user experience, obviously the eyepiece on the Ace is much larger and the resolution is much higher. So 2560 versus 1024 on the Bolt. So you're going to get a much more generous and more comfortable viewing experience on the Ace, but obviously at a much higher price premium. So one great feature about just these scopes, but most of the Nocpix line, is that they're going to be triple fuel. And what I mean by that is most of them will have built-in batteries, and also they will be able to be powered via an 18650. So as an example, if you're running your scope and it's trying to run dry on the internal battery, you can always insert an 18650 battery on the side and be able to power that. Additionally, the third way to power it is via USB-C on the side here. So that's what I mean by triple fuel. So onboard power, 18650, and also you can charge it and use it via USB Type-C on the side. Nocpix is really great at doing these triple fuel devices. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual, what we consider standalone thermal scopes. And the only reason why it's called standalone is because it usually comes with its own mount base attached. So within the Nocpix lines, there's really only 2 models that are standalone, the Slim and the Ricoh. So as you can see from the side, the Slim is slim, lives up to its name. It's also a pretty large size and weight difference really between the two. Let's get into the Slim first and I'll move into the Ricoh. The Slim is available in 2 models, the L35 and the H35. So same objective 35mm lens with your choice of a 640 core or a 384 core. 1024 by 760 AMOLED screen on the back. And what's interesting about the Slim is that they sell it with this base, which is an okay base. But what's nice about it is actually being sold as what they call a 2-in-1 device. And the reason why it's called 2-in-1 is you can buy an optional quick detach throw lever mount. So essentially it kind of works, for those of you who watch our channel, it kind of works like our P-Falcon PDAP up FTS mount, where you essentially leave the mount on the actual weapon platform itself. and then you can quickly do a throw lever and take the mount off and put it back on with a repeatable 0. That's not what I have in my hand here. This is just a factory mount base, but just know that you can purchase this additional 2-in-1 mount to kind of take full advantage of its capabilities. I believe this is the only device that's only dual fuel, but what's nice about this is it has a magnetic USB-A. That way you can actually power this via just the USB if you wanted to, kind of like run a little battery pack in the back of your stock. Or what's a very interesting design is that it's got this 18650 pipe that you can drop an 18650 into, and it will run off of that. So it makes the battery change extremely easy to use, and that's kind of what the Slim is. It's pretty, I would say, mid-end thermal scope that's nice and lightweight and very low profile. Moving on, we have the Ricoh. The Ricoh line has historically been a full-featured thermal scope. So this one now is available in the RH50R, which is the one I'm holding in my hand here. They have the H75R, so the same 640 core, massive 75mm lens with the laser rangefinder built in. And then finally, it's also available in the S75, so same 1280 core as the Ace, but now available in a 75mm variant. So it's even higher end, I would argue, since it's a larger objective lens than the Ace S60. So it's available as the S75R, and then it's also available on the L42R. So 384 core, 42mm lens, all of them come with laser rangefinders. What's nice about the Ricoh, the RH50R, is it has this nice like throw lever on the back, which works like any LPVO or any magnified optic, where you can essentially do digital zoom via this throw lever without having to push buttons to do stepped zoom. So this is a continuous zoom in increments of 0.1x. And again, this one has the magnetic charging port. So if you want, you can, again, this is dual fuel. So onboard proprietary battery, I should probably note, comes with 2 of these batteries in the box. And I believe each one gives you about 6 to 8 hours of battery life, but optionally you can always attach the USB power and run this for many, many hours off a USB power bank. They also have this Picatinny section on the side, but I'm not sure what it's for since you already have a laser rangefinder, but it's there. So it's nice to use. Controls are going to be a little bit different with the focus knob on the top, and then on the Slim, it's more of a rotary to adjust your focus. All of these have adjustable diopters, adjustable zoom, onboard recording, all that good stuff. Finally, the last thing I want to quickly touch on is the Ricoh especially has a much nicer and improved throw lever mount now. So it's kind of like an ADM style, and it nicely locks, recoil lugs, and also you can actually switch this mount for this. And then we also sell what we call a short mount. So as you can see with the Ricoh, it's got kind of like this gooseneck cantilever. We also sell a different mount that bolts on directly underneath, so you don't have this like rear offset. So the mounting footprint is cross-compatible between this one, the Ricoh, the Slim, and I'm skipping ahead, but also compatible with the Mate. So if you have any of the mount bases, they will drop into any 3 of these devices. Okay, let's get into the actual thermal monoculars. So these are just handhelds and nothing more. They're not multifunction devices. They're strictly, I would say, for observation, surveillance, search and rescue, preparedness, something that's not, as an example, if you're, on a patrol or you're looking for something, much easier for you to have something that's a bit, compact and more mission focused in terms of the form factor than, trying to search with a scope on a rifle. So thermal monoculars are available really in 2 separate variants. One's the Lumi and the other one is the Vista. The Lumi, both of these actually come in a variety of different lenses and cores. So I'll just go ahead and list them out. The Lumi is available with and without laser rangefinder. So it comes in H35R, which is the highest end model that I have in my hand here. It's also available in L35, so same objective lens size, smaller core, with and without the laser rangefinder. It's also available in the L19, which is the one that I have here. And keep in mind that there's no L19R, so it's only available as a monocular only, smaller objective lens size, 384 core. And then finally, the lowest end device is the P13, which is a 13mm lens with a 192 core. So as you can see here, there is going to be a bit of a size difference between these 2 devices. So the LRF models are going to be a little bit longer, generally speaking. And then obviously the Vista is going to be substantially larger. So, but what's nice about the Vista is that you're not only getting like a much larger device, but you're getting a 2560 by 2560 AMOLED screen on the back. versus a 1024 by 768 screen on the back of the Lumis. So again, similarly in a way of the difference between the Ace and the Bolt is kind of how you want to think about the difference between the Vista and the actual Lumi. So again, there's so many devices within each of these two families that you can really try to figure out, okay, well, what's the detection range I need to go with? Do I need a laser rangefinder? And then from there, that can help you hone into the actual specific model of each series that you're looking at. Talking a little bit about the Vista itself, like I said, this one is much more full-featured. One thing I want to mention, though, is that it takes a proprietary battery. It does allow for USB-C powered on the side, but it's not triple fuel like some of the other devices. Its own proprietary battery comes with two, and you can power it off a remote battery pack via USB-C. The Vista is available in 5 different variants. I believe this one is the S50R, which is the highest end device. As you can see, there's some parallels between the Ace 60 and the Vista S50. So just a smaller lens, completely different form factor, but using kind of roughly similarly, if I kind of flip this around, you can see very similar technology, very similar parts between the two. So it's available in S50R, H50R, H50, H35R, and H35. So really high level, really available in 3 models, some with or without laser rangefinders built in. The laser rangefinder is nice because it's tucked in. It's not something that you have to attach or hanging off the side. It's very fully integrated, similar to the Ace. The Lumi laser rangefinder is a little bit different. It kind of hangs out down below. But all of the laser rangefinders that Nocpix offers gives you approximately 1 kilometer to 1.2 kilometers of ranging performance. So that's something to keep in mind. Despite the fact that potentially some of these higher end, larger objective lens magnification scopes will actually give you significantly more detection range than the actual laser rangefinder capabilities, just because having a laser rangefinder that can range up to 4 kilometers is usually somewhat rare, especially in the form factor that we're working with right here. Finally, one thing I wanted to quickly touch on is because these are observation devices, they all come with quarter 20 receptacles on the bottom, right? So as an example, if you're trying to use this at 8x zoom, for anybody who's used magnified optics before and trying to do it handheld, it's going to be very shaky. So why that's important is that now you can mount a tripod on these to steady your shots. And obviously, with regards to surveillance capabilities, every single device I've talked about so far has onboard video and photo recording, so that all of it's downloaded into the device itself. And you can also connect an app to it to download the images, or it can be able to connect it to an actual Windows PC to download all the footage, whether it's photos or videos. Finally, we have the Mate Clip-On series. So these are essentially not to be confused with Clip-On thermal imagers, which are COTIs, which clip onto a night vision device. These are actually thermal clip-ons. And what that means is essentially they will, using this included throw lever, you can have a rifle that has a day optic attached to it. And then with these adapters, you can sleeve it onto your end bell of your day scope, clamp it down, and it'll actually give you that thermal capability to your day setup. What's nice about these is the form factor is quite small. Now they're magnesium alloy bodies. The Mate is now available in 3 or 4 different variants. One is the Mate Ultra, which is brand new. That's not the one that I have here, but it's essentially a 1280 core clip-on. And what's nice about that is because it's a 1280 core, it'll actually give you significantly more leverage and more pixels to work with when you're dialing that zoom up and down on your day optic. Older clip-ons were a bit limited in terms of core resolution because, as you guys know, when you are using thermal optics, all the zooming is done digitally. You're zooming into the back of a screen. So that the higher core is usually a welcome thing to have for a thermal clip-on. Generally speaking, I would recommend just looking at the max engagement distance that you're looking to use these devices at and get the device that fits that requirement rather than, getting the Mate Ultra, despite the fact that you might just be shooting like 100 yards and in. So what's nice about the Mate series is now it has a detachable remote. So for example, if you have this mounted way up in the front, you don't have to go ahead and reach up to access your controls. It comes with this nice little Bluetooth powered remote, so you can actually activate it closer to you on near your buttstock as an example, and this can still go back onto the device, and it's just magnets in. Pretty neat. Just we'll focus on the front laser rangefinder we talked about. One last thing I want to quickly touch on that we've got a little bit of experience using these is the clip-on adapters, these little clamps that it comes with. Yes, it does come with them out of the box, but because it has to fit such a wide variety of scopes, we generally recommend you to find the exact adapter for your scope end bell diameter. that will fit on this. I believe a company by the name of Rusan, R-U-S-A-N. We'll go ahead and put with the URL on the screen. They actually have a huge catalog of scope adapters that will clamp onto your exact day scope and provide the right interface for something like this, so that you don't want to introduce any sort of play or anything like that when you're clamping it on. So a precise interface onto your day optic is actually very critical for something like this. Otherwise, you're going to get point of impact shifts. All right, guys, that was a very high-level overview of the Nocpix lineup for 2025. There are some models still coming out, some that we don't currently have right now, but hopefully that was enough to at least give you a taste of what Nocpix has to offer. If there's specific models that you guys want to see more of or want us to do a deep dive into, or any questions about any of these models, let us know down in the comments below. If you're still left wondering after this video about what device is best, give us a call, shoot us an email. More than happy to walk you through any one of these devices. We will try to keep the most popular models in stock. And as always, thanks for watching.